If you ever wanted front row seats living in a dystopic science fiction dream world, you've got them. If you ever wanted front row seats for the fall, the second fall, the great fall of humanity, you've got them. The illogic of the propaganda coming out of the establishment media, creating absolute abject division in this nation, is so transparent, is so weaponized, is so nasty. And it then just generates a nasty response from the so-called other side and the clash of civilizations that the globalists use in different permutations, in different combinations across this world to keep humanity in ignorant squalor. There is so much news to cover. A lot of it really exciting, a lot of it really positive, a lot of it horrifying. In fact, I know I mentioned it yesterday, but you guys reprint me Paul Joseph Watson's article that links to the Chinese People's Daily, where the Chinese president says prepare for war with the United States and that it could be imminent. I know that's two-day-old news, but I've got all these hundreds of news articles in front of me, and they're important. And I'm sitting back thinking, what am I going to cover first? Because I don't cover first what I think will get the ratings or what I think is the most popular topic. Sometimes I do if I think it's interesting. I tend to focus on what I think is really most important. Look at that headline, if you're a TV viewer. Chinese president orders People's Liberation Army to prepare for combat. Beijing vows to ignore ruling of International Tribunal on South China Sea. Jiang Zemin, if that's how you pronounce it, has ordered the People's Liberation Army to prepare for combat as a massive fleets basically on both sides build up in the area. He says as a measure against possible hostile U.S. action in the South China Sea after an international tribunal ruled that Beijing had no exclusive control of the area. And yes, people can point out that there are Chinese maps going back 1,000 years ago that claim some of those islands. I mean, I can show you maps Genghis Khan had, claiming, all of the old world. The point is there's a bunch of other countries in the area. It's an international shipping lane, and China is now expanding control into that area. And they had a deal with the Anglo-American establishment that they would be given the Panama Canal. They would be given basically exclusive control over manufacturing household goods and crap, but also a lot of electronics, and that they had an exclusive over rare earth minerals as part of the globalist system of dividing up power into different sectors and then playing it off against each other. But now as we get towards the end game of world government, you notice the double crossing is going into the stratosphere. They're launching huge space programs. They're weaponizing space. They are copying U.S. weapons technologies. They are selling it to enemies. And some folks will say, well, then who's bad and who's good? Our government's bad, and so is the Chinese government. And it's rapidly deteriorating very, very, very quickly. And here's a headline. War is coming, and the global financial situation is a lot worse than you may think. The conditions for a perfect storm are coming together very rapidly, Michael Schneider writes for Economic Collapse blog at Infowars.com. It's not just Schneider saying it. He links to all the top analysts saying this. Meanwhile, I turn on the television or just read the newspaper. I can't get away from it. We have to cover it. It's like half the website are all these social change, globalist, disinformation operatives out just beating the drum for class warfare with a nice icing of idiotic racism. It's the 14th day of July, 2016, on this live Global Thursday broadcast. I intend to open the phones up and take a lot of calls today. And one of my favorite investigative journalists, James O'Keefe of Project Veritas, will be joining us. He's had several big coups as of late, burrowing inside an anti-gun congressman's meeting where some very interesting information was discovered about these hypocrites. He'll be popping in for 30 minutes in the second hour. Anthony Gucciardi will host the fourth hour of Overdrive. If you're tuning into us on a local AM or FM station, please spread the word about this wonderful affiliate, and please don't take it for granted that they're willing to put information on the air, host on the air, that are actually defending this republic in some of its most dangerous hours. It's also important to note we simulcast the radio show at Infowars.com/show, where anyone can find the free video feed, the free podcast feeds later after each show that are sent out. So you can subscribe to that for free. The iPhone apps, all of it, and a lot more. And the audio streams, Infowars.com/show. We're going to be finding out, obviously, very, very soon about Trump's VP. And I have talked to a lot of big pollsters who are doing private polls to actually really gauge what's going on, not just political polls paid for to find out what the candidate wants to hear, so they can then put that back out to the public and create a self-fulfilling prophecy. But I will tell you, Trump is not in this realm. Trump, just like he's not taking big money from the establishment, is not paying for push polls where you call up and basically have the questions arranged so that it makes it more opportunistic, makes it sound more moral to be for one candidate or the other. Or polls that basically ask you questions that are so horrible about a candidate that it turns you against them. It's a way to put disinfo out there and say, basically, did you know that Donald Trump was convicted of rape, which isn't true, but your company calls up and asks that question and says, are you aware of it? And then it starts rumors. I mean, there's all sorts of dirty tricks that they can do with these systems. They can also pre-program them so that when they call you, even though you vote one way, it votes another. But the biggest thing they do is they have a list of people that have been polled before, and then they have these so-called phone lists that they claim are clean, and they call them, and it's predominantly old landlines, so it's older folks, and they can be basically guided into answering the questions the way they want. Then the national news can put that information out, and it creates the perception that Hillary Clinton is really ahead when she's not. Then weak-minded people who just want to feel like they're on a bandwagon and voting for the winner so they can have bragging rights, go ahead and vote for Hillary. So that's basically the corrupt form of polling. The real form of polling is to see how your message is getting out in a particular area, a particular demographic, a particular voting block, a particular state, a particular region, so that you can tweak your messaging to see what is more effective. It's a guidance system. And Facebook and Google have admitted that they're pledged to getting Hillary elected and to mobilizing as many young people and other internet users as they can to do that, by the news, by the search engine queries, by the crafting of headlines about how they direct you, where they direct you. The fix is totally in at a level never before seen. And Google and Facebook and Twitter and Apple and Microsoft, just the entire establishment is lined up against Donald Trump. And all the big money is lined up against him, and the mainstream media is lined up against him, and almost all the foreign leaders, from the communist Chinese to the corrupt Saudi Arabians to the corrupt Mexican leadership, they are all ALL lined up against Trump. It is just such a no-brainer that he's the guy to vote for. But separately from that, Rasmussen poll, Trump takes 7-point lead over Hillary. We're going to be getting into that report. Also, and I told you 2 weeks ago, multiple polls show him 7 points ahead. And it's not just Rasmussen, but I'm not at liberty to talk about it because those are private, internal polls. There's actually some thought in the Trump campaign that they don't want to put out too positive news, or the troops will stop fighting as hard, and then Hillary can pull some scams down the road, and we're going to lose the whole ball game. Just because we're, 1 touchdown ahead, it's not even halftime yet, folks. But that's the allegory. That's the analogy. We're 7 points ahead, 7 points ahead, and we're going into halftime next week. And then, boom, it's into the third and fourth quarter. It is on. This is it, and it's all accelerated in those last 3 months. First 2 quarters is a year and a half, and then it all compresses like a quickening or a singularity in those last few months. Get ready, because you're going to see the dirty tricks. You're going to see the stops being pulled out here. But I really want to say to the Bernie Sanders supporters, I really want to say to just the general public at large, how could you not be for Trump? You know the big banks are totally against him. Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, Warren Buffett, Wells Fargo. These are the big banks that launder the drug money on record. These are the people that run the whole show. These are the people that fund the open borders, that fund coming after our guns, that fund breaking up the family and all these disinformation campaigns and third wave feminism and all of it. I mean, you go look at who's financing all of it. Bringing in the, quote, refugees. It's all the same totally cold-blooded multinationals that if you see what they do in Africa and Latin America and places, I mean, it's slavery. But here they fund all this fake, gooey, modern neoliberalism that is cyanide. Donald Trump is like defibrillators on a country that's had a heart attack. It's electricity. It's dangerous. He could turn into a megalomaniac and take us in directions. Who knows? I mean, I can speculate all day, but the evil that's running things is scared to death of him, for real. Because he's a nationalist. He's exposing the globalist campaign, the Saudi Arabians' role in 9/11. He's exposing how China's bought off our politicians and giving speeches that no one covered. They would not show any clips of what he said other than 5 seconds long. It was so historic, I had tears in my eyes. I'm not trying to go off in a Trump love fest here, but that's just a fact. If you want to read some of the ways they manipulate polls, there's a Zero Hedge article we have posted on Infowars.com from ZeroHedge.com. More questions emerge about skewed Hillary polls. You can really see the skewing because they'll have all these other independent scientific ones that show Trump dead, even, or ahead. And then all of these other polls just show her like just massively ahead, 10, 12 points, 9 points. It's just total bull. I mean, look at that photo you just had on screen of her supporters. I mean, Arrested Development, vapid, stupid looking. And there's this wicked alpha predator, just flaming evil with a list of crimes behind her and wreckage that is just unbelievable. And they love the gimmick, she's a woman. It's just truly sickening. Truly sickening. Meanwhile, there's a new video we're going to be playing coming up. Hillary goon attacks elderly woman holding Bernie Sanders sign at a unity rally. He comes up and attacks her. That's how they operate. They've blocked our aircraft. Never been done before. For the entire 4 days. They're doing it 5 days out, actually. So a day early. 5 days of the convention. 30-mile exclusion zone. Never been done before in Cleveland and in Philadelphia. So we're going to be looking at all of that. Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, who you know is an ultra-massive critic of George W. Bush, total credibility. He's come out and said, Gestapo America, Adolf Hitler is alive and well in the United States, and he is fast rising to power. And it gets into the FBI, the Democrats, the Republicans, all of it. I mean, the establishment is together. They're different in name only. The Republican establishment hates Trump. I mean, you line up every enemy of this country, every evil group. The people that put in the racist minimum sentencing that targets blacks particularly. There's even statements from Hillary and Bill about blacks are super predators. Blacks need to be made to heel like a dog. But it's okay because the media said Donald Trump's a racist. He's a racist. And speaking of that, the weaponized ignorance of the entire MTV, CBS, ABC, CNN, fiction, nonfiction, the universities, the high schools, everywhere, pulling out the stops to create total hysteria. An Obama meeting for 3 hours yesterday with the head of Black Lives Matter. He doesn't meet with foreign leaders.